Hi guys, it's Han here. Today we are going to check out new Lexus RX 500h, thanks to Tim Bay. Buy Lexus from Tim. Thanks for subscribing, liking, commenting, forwarding, and lighting up the little bell. Previously, we've had a lot of videos of the new generation RX, but this RX 500, since it's been so hot, we haven't seen it, and Tim's got one today. So let's take a look at it. The biggest difference between the RX 500h and the previous models we've checked out is the powertrain, which uses a 2.4 turbo engine with a 6-speed automatic transmission. It's a hybrid system that's currently being used in a large number of Toyota's mid-size cars. Act as Toyota's high-level power presence in this class, but not the top, and we've seen on many occasions recently that Toyota has introduced a lot of top power flow. Almost all are plug-in, some with 4-cylinder engine, other with 6-cylinder engine. But for now, as far as hybrid with plug-in system concerned, in the mid-size category, the RX 500h is the powerhouse, with a combined system output of 366 horsepower. Maximum combined output torque 406 lb-ft. In the RX 500h model, the suspension is also McPherson front and multi-link rear with optional adaptive suspension. It's exactly the same as the other versions of the RX. There's no difference. The minimum ground clearance for the 500 is 8.7. which is the same with RX 350 all-wheel drive, a little bit smaller than RX 350h and RX 350 front-wheel drive model. The curb weight of the RX 500h is 4750 lbs heavier than other versions. All RX 500h now are all-wheel drive. Maximum towing capacity is the same as the other versions, 3494 with trailer brake and 999 without it. Fuel tank capacity is 17.17 gallons is the same as the RX 350h, which is slightly smaller than the RX 350. It can run 27 miles in 1-gallon gas in combined conditions according to EPA. On 2023 Model I, the RX 500h is the top price of RX series, and there's all sorts of threads on the internet to complain it costs too much, and I've been reading them. The price of this car has gone through the roof at that time, when there was a shortage of supply on the market. However, on 2024 Model E, even though it's more expensive, it's not the top price of the lineup anymore, and there's a plug-in version that comes out. The one we're checking out today is a 2024 RX 500h with LCD instrument cluster, 3-zone AC, Lexus Safety System Plus 3.0 system. The F-Sport Performance Package contains sport brake calipers, adaptive suspension, 235/50 R21 of 4 wheels, optional cold weather package, a heated steering wheel in it, optional Mark Levinson stereo, 14-inch screen with Lexus interface, optional 3-beam LED headlight also. The engine for this car was from the US, the transmission was from Japan, and the assembly plant was from Canada. Well, in terms of looks. Not too far off from other versions of the RX. It's just that the car has the F-Sport package, so it's a little more sporty. We can see that Toyota or Lexus on this car, they still simply interpreted sport as black trim. Plus, the car's main color is black, which makes it look darker. Except for a few places where you can see that shiny color, that's even the chrome strip. It's also doing dark trim, and the whole thing looks really dark. Except for the fact that its configuration is indeed high in certain places, but the overall shape of this car is consistent with other versions of RX. Whether the slender front face or the protruding forehead, the center grille is integrated into the front face, which is the current RX uniform design style. Optional triple beam LED headlamps with headlamp washing underneath, fog lamp and filler lamps were placed in this position. The lower front lip doesn't have a very protruding forward motion. The front is flat, and there's not a bumper protruding from the platform. From the side, the overall styling remains the same as the other versions of the RX. The front cabin is slender. Compared with the previous gen, the cabin and passenger cabin have relatively independent designs. The rear part looks very airy. As the current popular style now, coupled with Toyota's design style, the latest design style, the back should be relatively full, but you can see it still inherits the relatively wide-angle fastback shape of the last gen. One is a tribute to the previous generation model. The other, if you want to be fuller, you can buy TX. As we can see from the color scheme, there's no shiny color on the sides, and even the chrome stripes, it's also the dark color. F-Sport logos on the left and right side of the front fenders. There are cameras under the 2 rear-view mirrors, also with turn signals, automatic folding, and automatic anti-dazzle. Likewise, the outer door handles are not mechanical, but electronic switch. The lower edge is wrapped around the bottom edge of the car, which is consistent with other RXs, and it's performed very well, even at this price, and the front 2 windows are double paned. The rear two windows are still not double glazed, but single glazed, and the opening angles of the four doors are moderate, not overly dramatic for the class. As the height of this car, I can get in and out of this car at my height without the use of any pedals, and the price of the car, it's already at that level. As you can see, it is still not equipped with electric suction door, and this car comes with four 21-inch tires, which are very sporty for the size of the car. Especially the wheels, with the style of the car, with the smoked black color, the sporty atmosphere comes out right away, but whether you like it or not is a matter of opinion. But if you don't like it, there's nothing you can do. You want an RX 500h, there's only one F Sport version available. Brakes, it's got F Sport 6-channel calipers on the front. Brake discs, front discs used are 15.74 inches diameter ventilated discs. The size of the front disc is larger than the other versions, and the rear disc is a 13.39-inch diameter ventilated disc. The disc in the back is the same as the other versions. The overall look from the back is the same as the other versions of the RX, no difference. In addition to these logos, the whole rear, there's no chrome color, it's all black trim. The difference from other versions of RX is that the accessories at the back are a little more complicated, but they are not particularly exaggerated. There's one exhaust on each side, very thick hidden design, and it's still got the Lexus family key. It is equipped with an induction electric tailgate. The inside of its tailgate is also made of plastic. There's a light here, a light on the tailgate, also on both left and right. On the left, there's a 12-volt charger socket, buttons to adjust the second row seats, that's nice, and there's a folding hook here. Down here, it's a subwoofer. On the top right side is a folding hook, and underneath is a 120-volt, 50-100-watt 3-phase power outlet. The cover lifts up, and underneath is a compact spare tire, and the vehicle tools. When it's down, you can see that there's still a small height difference between the second row seatbacks and the trunk platform. The angle of upward lift of the second row seatbacks is still relatively large. Inside, the center design is identical to all other versions of the RX and follows the latest Lexus family design. Compared to the current design of the Toyota brand, it's a little bit more design-oriented with the center screen, and it's also like the family style. The physical buttons on the center console have been minimized as much as possible. It's all integrated into the center screen, including the air conditioning and some of the related controls. This car has some suede trim in the center console in the door panels, and all four windows have one-touch up-down. The switches both on the inside and the outside are electronic. The center console to the left of the steering wheel has some buttons and seat memory, as is consistent with the latest Lexus family design, and the car has a head-up display. It's linked to the accounting buttons on the steering wheel, and the shortcut buttons on the steering wheel are also two buttons in one. The adjustment of the shortcut buttons on the steering wheel has to be viewed through the head-up display, which I've talked about many times before. The instrument panel is the same as the current Lexus family, a single LCD screen, not very large, with two small physical gauges on either side, one for water temperature, the other for fuel. The downside is the information displayed isn't as extensive as the latest in the Toyota family, but a little more focused. The steering wheel, as you can see, has the same style as the family's, a 3-spoke steering wheel. This one is an F Sport steering wheel. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit more sporty when you grab it. Perforated leather on 3 and 9 o'clock half. The entire leather is very delicate. There are also two shift paddles behind the steering wheel, which are real shift paddles. There is a driver attention monitor behind them. Lamps with auto on-off function and auto high beam function. Front windshield wipers with auto rain sensing. The rear view camera is relatively large. On top, there's an eyeglass case. It's very small. I don't know what kind of eyeglasses it holds. The material of the ceiling is velvet, not suede or fabric material. I still prefer this material, it looks more old school. As with the new generation of Lexus, the center screen has been integrated with the air conditioning underneath. Air conditioning, except for the front and rear window defoggers, which have physical buttons you have to control and set in the center screen. The screen doesn't feel any different from other Lexus, and this car, although very elegant, has a very straight interface. This is energy flow, seat controls, driving assistance, distribution of 4 drivers, tire pressure. The new generation of Lexus products has wireless connectivity for CarPlay on iPhone and Android phones, and this car has Mark Levinson audio. 3D surround inside. 3D surround outside. Reversing camera with panoramic view. Wide-angle reversing camera with panoramic view. Front overlooking with panoramic view. Front view with panoramic view. Parking assist. Camera. 2 Type-C charger sockets here. Push open the cover. There are 2 ports, one large and one small. Large one for data. The small one for charging. A 12-volt charger jack right here. A wireless charging pad down there. The armrest box is very Lexus-like, so opens both from left and right. After opening, the volume inside is very large. There is velvet lining all around the inside. There are no sockets. The sockets are all placed outside. Frankly speaking, the biggest difference between this car and the RX 350h top model we saw last time is the powertrain. Well, this car, at the moment, it's in the high end of the powertrain. In terms of equipment, we can say that in the Toyota lineup, it has basically everything you can think of at this price point. Actually, it's not too radical to speak. If this model and this price point were given to a more aggressive brand, it could be a much more exciting setup. The big difference between that and the last time we looked at the RX 350h is that it has an F package. The most intuitive feeling is that this seat has better support for your body than the last we saw. It has more protruding wings on the chair, back and cushion. It gives your body a feeling of being relatively wrapped up in it, and you can feel that it's tightly clamped to your body. The padding material is not so hard, soft and moderate feeling, and you can see that the seat also seems to be very thick. What it wants to express is not to make you anxious to be sporty, but to add a touch of passion to your ordinary life. You will never forget what life is all about. The F logo on the seat, including the leather, is very comfortable. On the side, there's some suede trim. The materials at this price point, frankly, you can't overdo it. This car, it's covered in soft slush molding. In the center, there's a strip of suede. All soft slush molding in middle and hard plastic underneath. Above the door panels, it's a soft slush molding. Suede, leather, hard plastic, but this hard plastic is still soft on the surface when you touch it. It's not those really hard plastics. There's no hard plastic anywhere your elbows can reach it, neither where your hands can touch. Legs against the center console, hard plastic on the bottom, leather on the top. Sitting in there, you can't see the metal in the door frame. It's wrapped the frame in plastic. The second row isn't much different from the other versions of the RX, since the F Sport has nothing to do with the back. It's still the same cozy feel of the RX as always. As you can see, first of all, it's got a second row theater-style raised effect. Rear row has a higher sightline than the front. Everyone can see that there is no problem with the space, which is consistent with other versions of RX. What's commendable is that its second row seats are wide, thick, and large. Cushion is long and high enough, while the leg support is so good. I seem to feel that the second row seats in this car is slightly higher than the second row of other versions. I don't know if this is my imagination. Anyway, in the second row, it's very comfortable, and as you can see, the seats are very wide, thick, and attractive. It's got some suede trim on the second row seats, too. The backrest elevation angle of the second row seats can be adjusted electrically. This is the maximum backrest elevation angle. But the seats can't adjust back and forth. At this price point, the configuration is the top of the RX model. I don't know if the 450 plug-in version will be higher than this. We will see. The sunroof curtains open here, lights in this position, reading lights, no curtains on the sides, and the door frames are wrapped. The door panels are soft lined on top. Suede, leather, hard plastics, not too hard plastics, it's good. The second row air vents are behind the center armrest in the front. AC can be individually adjustable in rear. These 2 seats have seat ventilation and heated, and 2 Type-C charging ports, and the floor doesn't rise too high, but it does rise a little. The center armrest in the second row is also high enough that your elbows can rest on it very naturally. There's a cup holder up there. Storage. When I drive this car, the overall feeling is the same as the other versions of the RX. It's the same thing, including the tightness. The biggest difference is in the power. This powertrain we have experienced on the high-end Crown before. The overall adjustment parameters of the RX 500h system is more powerful than the Crown. In terms of power, it must completely crush the RX 350, let alone the RX 350h. This is a short test drive because it was cold when I tried it and I needed to turn on the AC on heat. Another reason is that the motor of a regular hybrid model is inherently less intensive than a plug-in hybrid. The overall feeling is, except for crawling at low speed, or running at a very constant speed, the motor rarely works alone. Observing the energy flow diagram of the central screen, I feel that the motor is more often a helping hand to the engine. In addition, the engine parameters themselves are so good. 2.4 turbo engine. It's even more powerful, compared with the RX 350, at low speeds due to the help of the motor, when the low speed creeps or the initial stage of starting. Feeling it's operated more lightly. This car is heavy. Its weight has reached 4,750 pounds, which is 440 pounds more heavier than the four-wheel drive 350 and 300 pounds heavier than the 350 hybrid. But the car doesn't feel bulky at any speed. When you step on the gas pedal, the speed of the vehicle will be excellent and the engine will make a very low, booming sound. I feel that the sound is a bit like an imitation of the Germany brands with leather. Will the acceleration reach the official 0-60 mph in 5.9 seconds? I can't speak to this because I haven't actually tested it, but this motor combined with a turbocharged engine, each makes up for the other's shortcomings. Even with a 6-speed box, the whole car speed up is very linear. There's also more of a pushback when you give it a big kick. You can clearly feel the power difference with the 350 and 350h. It seems that Toyota also wants to express to consumers at this moment, your money was well spent. Suspension overall, it doesn't feel too far off from the other trims. In fact, if you have to feel it carefully, it has certain technological help with an adaptive suspension. However, this adaptive suspension, it's got an F-Sport name on it. Although this is an F-Sport performance, it's definitely not as violent as the F letter alone, but as opposed to the F-Sport handling we often see, this performance is a more soulful version. Among all the F packages, the overall suspension isn't the same kind of flimsy. And while we can also clearly feel the suspension doing its best to filter out the vibration from the road, it's not extremely smoothing it out. Instead, it's a slightly more road-hugging trim, so that it's not exactly road-hugging like sport car, nor an unmitigated flim-flam, so that it's a better demonstration that Toyota is still trying to build this car so that consumers can live their lives in an ordinary way. A modest ripple, not a flailing, sporty one. All the RX 500h that you can buy now is only the F-Sport. So if you like the power of the 500 but want the comfort of the car, there's no such thing at the moment. But I guess we may wait a little bit. According to Toyota's usual practice, it may come out as the annual facelift in a certain year. The rest of items feels more consistent with other RX, and the sound insulation is also relatively good. Moderate wind noise can be heard. The steering wheel and brakes are adjusted more comfortably. Especially the brakes of this car can be felt better than those of other versions of RX. There is obvious progress. The brakes retract more freely than any other version of the RX. In summary, this is the new Lexus RX 500h video. Overall, the car's interior and exterior design is consistent with the rest of the family's RX. The configuration is relatively high. Also, it costs much more. Toyota has used every conceivable feature at this price point, but the configuration is not too radical. The most remarkable thing about this car is its powertrain, which is now widely used in the Toyota lineup. The powertrain of this car, compared to the RX 350, especially to the RX 350h, the improvement is more obvious and can be clearly felt. This feeling of power is what a hybrid car should look like. This car is positioned as a 5-seater SUV, which brings to the price range of $70,000 to $80,000. With that budget, the choices in the marketplace are, not to say large, but huge. It seems that Lexus is pretty confident in their pricing for the RX. On this basis, Toyota is still not satisfied. It has also released a higher priced as the plug-in version of RX. As for the market performance of these models, we have to wait and see. Also, the same sentence remains. Buy whichever one you like. Don't control. Don't be shy. Thank you for the video.